Well, welcome to July in the California Native Plant Garden. This is Carl with Blossom Hill California Native Plants, and it's going to be a warm day, but it's a beautiful morning. As you can imagine, there's not a lot of new plants flowering this time of year. We'll review some of the ones that are still in flower. The native plants will generally flower with moisture. Some of the ones are summer flowering and they will continue, but some of the ones you see in front of you right now, the Wayne Roderick daisy, we've seen that before, lower center left, the desert marigold, yellow, behind that the California buckwheat. Pretty picture, late July sunrise in the California Native Garden. Here's another nice picture, different perspective. You can see on the right hand side the Santa Cruz Island buckwheat, Eriogonum arborescens. On the left hand side is the rose sage, Salvia pachyphylla. Still is blooming somewhat, and in the middle rear is Zachinaria mexicana, Californica mexicana, a California fuchsia. We've seen that before, and that should be blooming for most of the rest of the summer. Nice picture, especially the Santa Cruz Island buckwheat. Nice blooms. In the background you can see the desert willow, Chelopsis linearis. That's still flowering. We'll take a little bit closer look at that a little bit later. It's a nice time of year to look at deer grass. In the lower or middle left, deer grass is Muhlenbergia origens. It's a nice perennial bunch grass. Nice accent plant for a native garden. Behind it is Falugia paradoxa, Apache plume. And you can see the feathery seed things that it has. It's done blooming. Well, there's a few flowers on it still. And it's a nice texture, a nice look to Apache plume. Here's a nice look at desert willow as promised. Hopefully you can see the flowers on it. It is a nice summer bloomer. A nice tree. This is one of our favorites. Again, I think I mentioned this before. Again, this needs to be pruned to the desired shape. If you don't prune it, it'll be more like a shrub, but you can prune this up into a nice, beautiful tree. It is deciduous. It drops its leaves in the winter, but nice color, nice look for the summer. And even during the winter, the structure and bark is very attractive. Here's another look at California fuchsia mexicana. You can see the flowers. It'll bloom for most of the summer. It's really just starting on its bloom cycle, and we'll take a look at it in the coming months. Here's a quick shot of Mattole river fuchsia. We've looked at this before, and this does get garden water, and it gets really big and it keeps growing and it puts on a nice bloom. So this is more of a versatile plant, as really all the fuchsias are, that can take garden water and they'll get bigger and a little bit more blooms. This is a nice plant. This will bloom through fall until frost. Here's another fuchsia, Zachinaria californica. I think this is a Catalina. So many refer to the genus as Epilobium, so just be aware of that. And this should start blooming right now as it is and continue on through most of the summer. We'll take some other looks at this in the coming months. Here's mountain bush sunflower, Encilia actini. This does get some water, or did get some water the last couple of weeks, and this one seems to use it to a good advantage. Some of the other plants, you see some blooms, occasional, but most everything else is shut down. The Encilias are a nice summer flowering genus. We have some other sunflowers in that genus that might be also worth a look. Well, it's the end of August and beginning of September, so let's just take a look at a few things. We've had a lot of wildflowers and smoke, sorry for the delay in the video, but we've had kind of some ugly conditions for shooting movies, so here we are. Just real quick, we've looked at these before, but just want to give you an idea what they look like during this time period. In the lower center is Pigeon Point, Bacularis pilularis, or dwarf coyote bush, and that's a ground cover. I've seen it before. It stays nice and green all year, which is worth a look this time of year. Left-hand side of the screen is Encilia actini, mountain bush sunflower. You can see it's still in flower. This part of the garden gets water about every 2 weeks. So with moisture, that'll keep on going. Here's Zalcenaria californica catalina, California fuchsia, a nice late summer bloomer. You can see the blooms. Fairly upright plant. We'll take a look at another fuchsia. They're really good summer, fall bloomers, and a little bit of moisture with this one will push it along, and you'll get quite a bit of blooms. Here's another look at Catalina, California fuchsia. Just a quick shot of narrow leaf milkweed, and you can see the seed pods are opening up, and the seed is starting to blow in the wind, and that's kind of cool. You can collect the seed and make some more of this, and this will reseed a little bit. It hasn't been very invasive. The only volunteer we got is right under the existing plant, but narrowleaf milkweed. Here is Zalcenaria californica mexicana, lower growing fuchsia, spills over the rocks a little bit. This one has been hurt a little bit by the heat. We had some extremely intense heat in August, but it should be flowering now through fall. Starting to give it a little bit supplemental water. Like the other location a little bit earlier, this gets water about every 2 weeks. Here's a nice shot of the desert willow at the end of August, beginning of September. You can see a deer grass in front of that. The desert willow, believe it or not, is still blooming, and it looks like it'll continue for a little while longer. The deer grass in front of it, that would be on the left hand side, somewhat behind the big bush in front. The big bush in front is bee's bliss. We looked at that in the spring. Aggressive grower, fantastic plant, grow anywhere, but does need a lot of room. That's what that looks like this time of year. And kind of a nice shot with a fence behind it. Nice white fence. So here's a perspective that we looked at the beginning of July, and now it's the end of August. And it's a nice morning, still a little smoky from the fires, but nonetheless a nice morning. And you can see the Mexicana fuchsia, Santa Cruz Island buckwheat on the right hand side, on the left hand side the rose sage, and it's a nice morning. In the far background, the desert willow. Nice perspective in the California native plant garden. Just a word about irrigation. I have mentioned that some of the parts of the garden we looked at in August are irrigated every 2 weeks. You'll have to decide how to do that on your own. We have parts of the garden that are irrigated multiple times a week, typically close to the house, when we interplant natives with ornamentals. Parts of the garden get no water at all, no supplemental water. Those types of plants are the bush lupins, the oaks, some of the ones that handle dormancy and drought better. But typically as you get closer to the house, we give them a little bit more water, anywhere from every 2 weeks to once a month. This part of the garden, I think as I mentioned, is every 2 weeks, and that keeps it a little bit greener. Nice to have that a little closer to the house. You can have any type of watering system you like. The more frequency, the garden water type of thing, you need to be really careful on what species you use. Some will not handle that. Every 2 weeks to every month, most of the natives will handle that type of irrigation scheduling. And with some moisture, many of the plants will bloom for quite a while into summer. This is a nice shot. The Mexicana, the fuchsias in particular, will bloom summer into fall, and if you give them just a little bit of moisture, they will put on a nice display for you. So nice perspective. Let's look at one more before we end the video. So here's another perspective that we started the video with. The Wayne Roderick daisy, the desert marigold, the nicely painted fence, which you may have seen wasn't that the case in beginning of July. So that has been painted, adds a nice contrast to the garden. And a nice time of year, even though there's not as much going on. We look forward to the fall, to planting, to cooler days, and continued enjoying the cycles that the native plants go through. So I hope you enjoyed the video. August and July were combined. Probably combined September and October, November, December, depending on what things look like, so that there's a little more content in each of the videos. And hope to see you this year at a sale during the fall, and hope you enjoyed the videos.